Hello, everybody. So here we are in another of our series of interviews about small firms and their journey through opening their offices as part of the SFX topic of the year, which is practice. And that said, I have someone very special here who I'm very excited to introduce. And he's going to be joining us today for a little bit, and we're going to learn a lot about that journey to opening this amazing practice. So Dana is an architect and performance artist based in Carbondale, Colorado. She attended Mount Holyoke College in Western Massachusetts, where she studied spatial studies, architecture, dance, physics, and critical art theory, and earned a master's of architecture at the Rhode Island School of Design in 2008, RISD. She also earned the Alpha Rochi Medal. Amazing. From 2008 to 2020, Dana worked for a firm in Aspen, Colorado, specializing in custom residential, hospitality, and historic preservation. In 2020, Dana started the Outpost Studio in Carbondale, Colorado, and has expanded her specialization to include affordable housing. Dana currently serves as the chair, of course, of the National Board of a Small Firm Exchange, SFX, in 2024 now, and is a professional performance artist with Co-Motion Dance Company, where she loves to create atmospheres and events through movement and installation. I didn't know that about you. Welcome, Dana.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Did I capture everything? All good?
I think that was great. It's fun to hear it back.
Excellent, excellent. So Dana, let's do a little, traveling in time back to the beginning, right? How you got started with your firm, what kind of triggered that? Essentially, how you got to where you are right now, and that journey that other firms may be going through right now, or maybe people that want to open their firms who want to know about a little bit, and what makes you guys special.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that has become clear to me is that in general, I don't think architects are giant risk takers. We are a bit more, and you might be an exception to that, actually. But in
Thank you.
general, I think in my experience, a lot of architects, I think because of history of having a mentorship program, there is a culture of sort of putting in your dues. And so I felt a sense of pride and a lot of gratitude to be able to work straight out of graduate school for a firm and really learn the ins and outs of firm management, project management. And it took 13 years of kind of that growth to gain the confidence to actually go out and do my own thing. And at the time, I feel like a lot of firms came out of the post-COVID era of sort of saying, wow, I can do things maybe differently, putting things in a different perspective, being forced to put things in a different perspective definitely changed my mentality from, oh, I don't know if I can do this to, oh, no, definitely I can do this. And it was risky, there wasn't a lot of work coming in. A lot of people I've spoken to started firms with like a lot of jobs lined up. And I didn't. I just jumped in, and thankfully within a series of days of sort of making the decision and sort of putting it out there into the world, we got our first project, which gave me the confidence to step away. And I did step away from my previous employer slowly. So I did have kind of this money coming in, finishing projects. And I think that the act of seeing things through, if you are leaving a firm, karmically, that I think has done me well. Like I didn't leave anybody in a massive lurch. And so I started the Outpost Studio with my husband, and that wasn't originally the plan. I was like, I'm gonna do this. And obviously talking a lot with him, and he was like, well, what if we did this? And he was working for an architect and had only been in the practice for a few years. So he definitely wasn't coming in with, the same level of experience. He's like, I'll be your first employee. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's an amazing draftsman. So I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's
Mm. Now, I do want a little bit more granularity, and it's because I want to know more about, like, why did you even open the outpost, right? Like, okay, the pandemic, that time, but why do you even like what would it have taken for you to have to leave that office? And I'm not even talking about anything negative about the office, but I'm saying, maybe there's something that you wanted to bring that's what you're doing now. Like, what was the trigger? What's your why to doing this? Because I have my own personal reasons. It was my kids and my family. That's it. I couldn't see my kids during the mornings because I woke up too early, and I couldn't see them at night. So if I couldn't do that, I don't want to work at any place. Don't care how much money they're gonna give me. Right. So that was one thing, right? I felt a little exploded because of the time. But like, I would have been happy there forever if the workplace was understanding that I wanted to put my kids to bed and I wanted to say good morning to them 2 in the morning and take them to school. So what was the trigger for you? What made that jump? And that said, you said that you saw them through and that you didn't live in a bad note, which is always a good thing, right? Like, always leave places better than you found them, if anything. So how what made you think of, I should probably open this firm? When was that? How did it happen and why?
Yeah, so I was a manager and a principal. And this is Roland and Broughton in Aspen, Colorado. And when I started with them, they were about 6 people. And by the time I transitioned, it was about 50 people. And so I had gone from a project manager, even from the beginning, who was really involved in the projects I was touching, to essentially a business manager, like a principal level of a firm of that size.
Nice.
And I didn't want to be a people manager of that scale. I wasn't touching projects in the same way, and I wasn't interacting with clients in the same way. I wasn't designing in the same way. And I missed that a lot. And I
How did you
also,
get to that? Was it by force? Was it that another principal had left that position? Was it just organically? Because when I was young, I wanted to take everything to make my principals be happy. So I would do anything they wanted me to do to make them happy. So I was also turning into a project manager and manager, one of my offices. But like, what was it? Was it that you were good at it, or was it what? I'm just trying to understand it, and I'm sorry that I'm trying to psychoanalyze you a little. It's just because
no,
I
it's
want to
great.
know. I want to know how, like, why people make those decisions to be where they are, and was it that somebody just held you and said you're gonna be a manager, and that's what I want you to be, right? Like, it sounds like you didn't like that position. Like, it wasn't something that not that you hated it, but you didn't like it enough because it wasn't what you wanted to do. You wanted to probably be more involved with your projects and understand and own the product a little bit more, right? Touch the product a little bit more, not the people. Yeah.
100%. I was good at it. I was good at it. One of the former bosses I had said, you really handle difficult clients well. And I was like, yes, but that doesn't mean I want all the difficult clients then, right? It's sort of like, just because you're good at something doesn't necessarily mean that you can feel fulfilled doing the work. So yeah, it was organic to a sense. I had just graduated architecture school in 2008. I, took the only job I could get. And it was a really fantastic job because I had initiative and I had, I would say, baseline common sense, but like a strong desire, right, to advance. And it actually was when, moving my way up, finally being offered the principal position. And it was one of those moments you're like, I've hit what I've wanted. And all I kept feeling was, wait a minute, like, this isn't feeling the way I had thought it would feel. Like, you hit this pinnacle in a career, and it actually had a lot of weight to it that didn't feel like it was mine to carry. And what I mean by that is, when you have your own firm as in like your own business, and you're forming that from the beginning, there is a sense of accomplishment that I think can really allow for pride of ownership
Mhm.
and
Mm.
a acknowledgement of, I got here. When you are working for somebody else and you then hit that pinnacle, I had felt in my heart of hearts that I had put everything in. But again, like you were saying, it was always kind of for somebody else. And
Mm.
when you get to that point and you see kind of the full financial picture and start to understand the full financial picture of a firm, to a degree, it has been for somebody else, right?
Mm.
Like, financially. And so I was like, I can do this for me. And so it was a moment of absolute excitement to sort of think about, okay, I can take what I've learned and actually build something else. And I have a different end goal. My end goal is not to be a 50-person firm. My end goal is to be the best small firm I can possibly be, because I like that scale. And what I'm good at in terms of people management, I can then do for things like the SFX. I have time to sit on the board of my daughter's school. I get to be
Mm.
creative in these other ventures. And so some of that larger scale people management, I have now actually transferred to nonprofit work, to things that are bringing me satisfaction for my community, that I would have never been able to do managing the scale of company that I was doing. So,
And the pressure is completely different, right?
oh yeah,
The pressure is the like the nonprofit side, which is like a cultural game more than the capital itself. It's like has a value, and the success of that place has a value, but like at the end of the day, it's not like, oh my gosh, my entire career just went down because this project and this stress, I'm gonna lose my hair. It's not like that. It's more like you're giving as much as you can possibly give within the time that you have, and you use those skills. Now I wanted to know, okay, so I guess, okay, here's Dana. She gets this job. She grows all the way to the top. Success. Woo, great job. So then I even
and
wonder,
jump off.
yeah, and then I wonder, like, where were you? Because I was actually having conversations with some of the fellows SFX members on the previous session that we had, and they were all
Yeah.
telling us where they were. Some of them were like, "Oh, I was in a trip in Arizona, and I was eating, and I was talking." And I said, "Like, listen, it was like this thing that just came on them. How did it happen?" Because it sounds so perfectly planned on you. Like after you hit that point, it looked like the only path forward was for you to open your firm. But how, like, like was it like that suddenly, like that? You're like, listen, okay, I got to do
No,
this. Yeah.
no,
So,
it
and I'm
definitely
sorry if
was.
I'm pushing buttons I'm not supposed to push, but I really think an honest answer to why, after being at the top, and you could have just owned that firm outright eventually, right? So, or be a majority owner at some point and be a WBE, which a lot of firms want to do. So why, like, you could have moved the ship in the direction you wanted it to be. So why have to create one ship from scratch? What was that?
I think because I had spent most of my career there trying to move that ship, and most of my energy trying to move that ship, and it wasn't moving. I shouldn't say that. It was constantly fulfilling in like a career sense, where like I was growing and the work was super interesting, and I was learning a lot. But the one of my main jobs was just trying to keep and retain qualified employees. And that was really hard because the expectations of the firm were quite high. And I loved that about it, right? Like I wanted high expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to bring in employees who could sort of match that and retain them was exhausting. And so, and I just saw my future. You know what it was? I saw my future. I saw like what you described. I saw my future. And it wasn't the future I wanted. I wanted a future where I was at home more. I wanted a future where I didn't feel stress every day. Um, I wanted a future where I didn't have to tell somebody where I was going if I wanted to go somewhere in the middle of the day. I wanted a future where I could like hang out with my kid for 2 hours, during like business hours and then work a little bit later if I needed to without second guessing myself or if I was going to miss something. The accountability to such a large firm, that's really, it's to me, it's like a numbers game. The accountability to a larger firm is so much greater, right? Like you have so many more people relying on you to be available. And when you have a small firm and a smaller client base, I can send a quick message to we have 4 people on our team. I can send a quick message and be like, hey, I'm gonna go, run a quick errand. Like, I don't even think twice about it. Like, or I'm not going to be available until this afternoon. I don't even think about it. And, it's so much easier to line out a team that's that scale. And kind of know what everybody's doing and be able to manage them in a way that's a little less frantic. And that's still a challenge. That's still something I think in the culture that I kind of grew my architecture career, it was a little bit more of a reactive culture, even though like we tried absolutely our hardest to not have it be. But when you have so many clients with so much, you know, billing on the line, there's a lot of jumping when you were told to jump in order to keep those clients happy and the staff busy in order to keep the machine running of the business, right? Have a smaller machine, there's less things that need to be moving in order to keep it running. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a weird time to jump off, but in terms of the decision, it was slow. What really landed for me was I was reading a lot of books about, big changes in your life. So, there's a book called Broken Open by Elizabeth Lesser that I read at this time. And I was reading some sort of like quasi spiritual books like The Universe Has Your Back by Gabby Bernstein. And it was essentially saying, if you have gratitude for where you've been, if you are able to see your life in a way where it's not coming from a place of resentment, these changes, but actually coming from a place of like, immense appreciation for the steps and the places that got you to where you are, then you can kind of step forward into whatever new reality you want. That's like it's like kind of out there in a sense, but it gave me peace of mind, right? I wasn't scared. And that's another thing. I've never really been scared to do things. Like it's not a fear issue for me. It's like a sense of calm. I need a sense of calm in order to like step into something. And COVID, right? Like my nervous system reaction to COVID was to find more and more ways to create senses of calm. Right. So I was like, the world is crazy. So I worked extra hard. And it was within that I was like, oh, I can move through this and actually grow. It's also like, if I'm not learning something or growing in some way, like I'm dead. Like that'll only happen like after I die. So I think I was also super excited to like, learn something. Oh, we got a kitty friend.
We have a friend there. Yeah, yeah. I was good segue anyway. I guess I also have a moment of truth question. I mean, are you there? Are you where you want it to be when it comes to you mentioned this beautiful picture, by the way, of being able to spend more time with your family, being able to spend, make arrangements for your days in the way that you want to make arrangements for your days. Um, are you in that level of control of your life the way you wanted it? There is no that chaotic kind of like friction that you run away from. Do you have some of that still? Like, because that question that people still ask me is like, well, now Darwin, do you actually see your kids in the morning and night? And I'm like, well, no, I got divorced. so I only see them every other weekend. So he's like, no, I didn't get what I quit for, but I got more than what I want, bargain for anyway, Um, so that question, like, are you there? Like, how do you feel in that sense, right? Like, okay, you were at the top, you didn't want to manage people for somebody else's profit. You wanted to manage people for your own pleasure when it comes to the nonprofits, but also for your own financial retributions and have that greater freedom. But do you actually have that greater freedom? I'm just wondering if you've already crafted that, because I think we're all as small practices are navigating that balanced life. And I don't know if I don't know if a lot of people try to sell you that they can get you there, but I don't know if there's a secret sausage to that. So if you could tell me a little bit more, like how is it now, right? Like what, you got to that point, you broke through, you opened this place with no work, you kind of fade away a little bit from that practice. You had a little saving probably, right? Some money saved up so that you didn't just wait. You didn't have kids at that time when you quit, did you? Or
No, yeah, no, my daughter, we started the Outpost Studio in 2020. So it's been only 4 years and she is about to turn 10. So she
okay.
was, yeah.
So you had another little one to think about when you made this decision, because there's another thing too. I think that the time in which people make the decision of opening a practice within their entire ecosystem makes sense. And it has to be thought out. It's like, are you supporting a significant other? Are you supporting your mom? Are you supporting a child? Do you have student debts? You have things that concern you, right? So, but I want to know, one, if you're there, which I see that
Yeah.
you're actually thinking like, Darwin, but also like, that shift there.
Yeah, I will say, I did a pretty good job of setting boundaries prior to starting my own firm about seeing my family. So that wasn't like my number one why. And I think that is for a lot of architects, is this desire to be with their families more. But I worked really hard. And the reason I was able to work for a firm for 13 years was I sort of set like, here's what I need. I made that a like a non-negotiable like in terms of my family. And I feel like I did that well. But in terms of, I'm not saying I didn't work my tail off, by the way. Like it
Well, you must have. You went to the top. You didn't
yeah,
do it
no, I
just,
still worked my tail off,
um, you know.
but I did try really hard to have those
There's some of us that get lucky because we're good looking too, by the way. Some of
yeah.
us don't have to work that hard like me. I'm just kidding. But yeah, but but you worked hard, but you make sure that the non-negotiables were stated and that the boundaries were delineated. So you basically just transfer that over to your practice. Like it was
Right.
something that you already kind of ran your life with, right? Like it wasn't,
Right.
good, very good that you did that, by the way, because, even as you run your practice, clients think they own you 24/7 sometimes, and they think that they can get to you Saturdays and Sundays and certain hours. And you're like, no, 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 I got family and I got things to do. So I don't know how you manage that, but I just recently learned to not answer emails and not answer calls Saturdays and Sundays. It's been maybe now 6 months of a process, because I'm a workaholic. And the answer is not to open the email. Like don't open don't have it there, because I will open it and I will want to answer. So, but that said, you set up those boundaries. But how is your life now with your practice? And are you doing the things you love? And what's and this is not a moment for Dana to sell the outpost, but like, what makes you guys special? Like, what's the difference between just the next other firm, right?
Yeah, so it's interesting because so in terms of personal life, yes, definitely have found that my stress levels are where I had hoped they would be. My life in terms of like day to day is definitely what I had imagined it would be. So that has worked out great. In terms of the practice, it's something that actually the Small Firm Exchange has been hugely influential in. And just, we were on spring break last week. And from our last SFX call, the small group I was in, we were talking about, and this is similar to how I started the firm, but it's this idea that you need to say out loud the work you want to be doing and talking to people about the work you want to be doing. And that is one of the greatest forms of networking and business development that you can do. But if you just are thinking it, nobody's going to know. And it's not like that work's going to come to your door. So currently, since we've started the firm, we have been focused on a combination of residential work, remodel work, some new construction, and also because of resources that we built in the jurisdictions locally, we've been able to work with some of those jurisdictions on affordable housing projects and like governmental building projects, which I like a lot. But in terms of what we want to do, and this is brand new, and it came from that last SFX all call we had, but I really want to merge some of my interests a little bit more and be doing work with nonprofits and projects that are focused on doing work for the community and not just for private entities or, single family or multi-family housing. I love that work too, but in terms of where I want to see the Outpost studio going, that's definitely a goal of mine. And the other thing that I'm really proud of is we have done a lot of work for, I would call it like the working people of our area. So Carbondale's a small town close to Aspen, Colorado, and Aspen has its own architectural scene, and I was in it for a long time, and it was exciting, but it was not necessarily giving back to the community in the way that I, in my heart of hearts, was hoping to do. And so I see a lot of potential of being kind of that architecture studio that can fill the gap between the Aspen market and kind of the working class market. And the Outpost as like a concept was started really to be that place that people could go to for the work that was needed out of more necessity. So for instance, right now we have a family we're working with whose house caught on fire, and we're helping them rebuild. We're working with a multi-generational family, where we give them like reduced billing, and they bake us food, and we have sort of a reciprocity with them, and they couldn't build in this area if they weren't being supported, because the cost of living and the cost of construction is so high. So I do want to make money, right? Like I want to have a successful business. I want to pay my employees well, but I also want to be able to provide good architecture to people who may think it's outside of their life, outside of their reality. And that feels important to me. I don't feel like architecture should only be for the wealthy.
Hmm.
And I believe that so strongly. So that's kind of been like the guiding principle. Now, again, that is not a great business model,
No, it's not.
right?
Overall, yeah, exactly. It echoes with or why within Flow also, like increasing that pipeline of diverse architects is also like about training others that may not even make it into the profession, but will understand more about it and touching a greater community. I do think that, when I fly a drone around the neighborhoods, I look at all of my potential clients and it's communities, right? All of these neighborhoods that probably are underrepresented and that don't get a chance to work with an architect, so they get to. And then I guess the bigger your pool of clients, the bigger your chances of surviving, even if it is a little bit that you only make from each of them. So that's good. I like that. Now, a couple of things. I know we're kind of almost hitting the, like, I guess 40-minute line, but I do want to ask you a few really really critical questions for those SFX fellows watching this, um, and they're probably like, okay, Dana made it all the way here, is doing this amazing work, is balancing her life the way that she wants to. Um, but what's your legacy? Like, I want to know if you define what you want people to say about you when you're no longer here. And it's kind of like a little sad, but I think I live with the end in mind all the time because it's something that we all have certain. So I want to know, like, Dana, like, what would be a successful bio, or I guess obituary of you, if you were to tell it to people? And are you walking towards that legacy? What would it be like? You know?
I love that question. Well, I'll say professionally, I don't have desires to have like a legacy firm, right? Like I feel like the Outpost Studio will be something that my husband and I kind of carry with us, right? But we've been expanding it. We just started the Outpost Properties,
I like that. It's
which
funny.
is really exciting to start getting into real estate in a different way. And part of me is like, maybe it becomes the Outpost home. And I think more about like the tangible aspects of like what can be touched. So I do have these like big ideas for the company. But in terms of myself personally, um, I think most people, and this is said now, I want to be a leader. I feel like I am a leader. And for me, being a leader means helping certain things move forward, like being the shepherd of certain initiatives or certain goals, either in my community or in the profession of architecture. So keeping my involvement with the AIA and really working hard to mentor people. I feel like the biggest legacy I have is my daughter and her watching me do the things that I love. And those are a diverse amount of things. And she will even say to me now, there are so many different things you can be. And it's because she's witnessing me being, a performance artist and a architect. And she has so much pride in me, being able to balance that, as well as like a community member and an artist and, someone who loves to read and loves to garden. And I have a really diverse and full life. And so I think, yeah, my daughter will be my legacy for sure. And beyond that, I think all the ways I can impact my community, I feel less tied to the buildings. So what I mean by that is when I do a project, I'm doing a project with a group of people, the builder, the client, the engineers, the people who come in and finish out the landscaping, but mainly the clients, like especially for residential projects, they are bringing, at least the clients I love to work with, they are bringing their own life into the buildings. So when I look at a piece of architecture, I don't see myself in it. I see kind of the process and the journey. So I think my legacy is going to be more around the individuals I've worked with, the people I've been able to collaborate with. And I think in general, most people would say that I've worked really hard. Like that I have one of the most common things I hear from friends and colleagues is like, I don't know how you do it. That's like, and I do it without stress, right? I'm not walking around being like, oh, I have so much, like, I don't believe in that as like a mantra. I believe that I do what I want, and I do what is, I don't really do very much I don't want to do. Let me put it that way. And so I think what I'm hopefully modeling is that you can be of service to the profession, to your community, that you can do, like, it is possible to do those sorts of things and to do them well and to do them with gratitude and to do them with creativity and passion. And my biggest hope is that is sustained throughout my career. I imagine myself as like, a 70-year-old, like just as vibrant in the things I'm doing now. It doesn't mean I want to be like toiling away, but I don't feel like my life has very much toil anyway. Like I'm already sort of living a life I want to see sustained. Maybe it'll include like more travel or I don't know, more gardening.
Well, you do some traveling with the AIA, so that's good. Going to Washington, to San Diego, San Francisco, all that stuff.
I know, it's been awesome.
So that's really good stuff. So I guess me recapping some of that. So Dana Ellis, great mom, right? Diverse mom that did all these kinds of fun things, right? Talking past tense. Architect, influencer within the AIA, the SFX. Basically a raving fan for all small firms, all day long. Protector of underdogs and underrepresented communities, right? And that's why the affordable housing kind of aim. But then we also have Dana Ellis, the property developer and investor, right?
Yes, that's the newest one.
Yeah, there you go. And then, generally still performance artists too. So I guess, you have it pretty capped. I guess you have it pretty well put together. All the, the ingredients at a good age, right? Like some people discover what they're all about when it's almost too late. So you've already kind of figured out what you're all about at a good point in life, and you just want to sustain it for as long as you can, and you're not imposing it on others, saying the Outpost Studios has to live forever, right? Like, no, It's more like, this is the life I wanted, this is the ecosystem I wanted, and I attracted the things that I wanted to attract, and I was attracted to, and it was a win-win for everybody. So that's perfect. That's really amazing. Did I cap it really well? I think like
I love that.
Yeah, great.
You're right. Yeah, I've created the ecosystem I want to live in. And I guess my biggest hope is for clients and things like that is attractive. Like that can be something that people will say, I want to live in, like, not my world, but like that I can help create their little worlds too. Like that feels like a good goal. But I will say this conversation was fantastic because what it did was saying some of this stuff out loud is so important, but also thank you for the thoughtful questions, because I think if we're not asking ourselves these reflective things often, then you can sort of lose sight. And even with that sum up that sounds fantastic. There are days that feel the same, right? Like where
Hmm.
there isn't, and not that things didn't happen, but if you're not reflecting back and reflecting in a way that allows you to see where you want to go, like
Yeah,
you get
I think these questions I relate them to when you're driving and you're drifting off. You know how the highway has a even the
yeah,
cars now have that sound. It's like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. I set out to go to X and I've been driving and I don't know if I am calibrated or aligned to where I'm supposed to go. So I'm drifting away and things aren't really good. So we have to go back to our course. Now, one thing I wanted to challenge you on is the question, or I guess the philosophy of doing what you want. And I'll tell you why, because I actually, have crafted a career. I didn't want to own a firm. People may think otherwise. Those that know me may think otherwise. Maybe they say, "Oh, Darwin wanted the spotlights, or Darwin wanted to be." I don't want any of that. I just didn't find it anywhere else, and I didn't find a place where I could, like I could be enabled and empowered to make them money. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. So that said, I am doing a lot of things I hate, Dana. And you're really like, what? Yeah, I don't like writing contracts, and I don't like doing all this initial consultation, and I don't like every single day having to open the door of somebody else or a new project where I don't know who they are and how crazy they could be and how their lives could be. Every single day I walk into um, I have this, I guess, a good analogy. It may not relate to you, but it's like when I was single and I was like meeting new girls, the anxiety of meeting somebody for the first time. I get that every single day with a new client, and I have to kind of control it, manage it, but it's not my forte. Like, it's not my strength. It's not what I want to do. I actually think I'm a badass designer. And that's what I really love: crafting space, sketching, looking at space and relationships. And I've been putting that on mute, right? Because like I have to drive this bus in a direction where all others, the passengers, can actually get to their destination. Like it's not even about my destination; it's about all of the other designers and clients that are within the bus and getting to their destination. So at the end, it's like a self-sacrifice, but like I find the joy of saying, "Well, they all got there safely, and I'm happy," right? Like, but I don't do what I love. Really, I don't. I have a little pressure with a little my happiness with, yeah, impacting lives and some of the things that we do at the company. But like I don't walk out and say, well, Darwin, when you went to the Boston Architectural College and you first started, you this is what you imagined. It's not at all what I imagined, not even one bit. It's rewarding, it's fun, it's great, but I can't say I crafted a career out of doing what I love and want every single day, which is what you're doing.
mhm.
I'm doing the hard things that don't nobody wants to touch, the hard clients that nobody wants to meet with, the hard people that might not even speak English that I have to translate for them. I'm doing the very, very difficult things of training people over and over that quit on me every single day after I've trained them and given them love. And I'm getting emotional, but I'm saying like I do the hard things. I don't see my kids every other weekend. I'm doing the hard things every single day, right? I am not living the life I wanted to live at all, right? And then I win this amazing award now for the young architect. But it's like, well, thanks. I apply for it and it feels good for a minute, but I am not crafting a career out of doing the easy, loving, fun things that I wanted to do every single day. So I envy you that you're
Yeah, I mean,
doing exactly what you want to do every
yeah,
single
well,
day.
so it's interesting. So my husband and business partner is not doing, he wouldn't say the same thing that I'm saying.
Mm. So you're selfish. You're doing
No,
what you love, but he doesn't.
no, but I actually think it's partially a mindset shift that I had to do. And some of it, it's going to sound so simple. We were having a talk yesterday and he was struggling with some of the things that we had to do like as a company. And he's like, how are you not like dreading that? And I'm not, it's probably, if somebody was to psychoanalyze me, there's probably like a bit of avoidance that's
Hmm.
happening with feeling
Mm.
certain emotions. So I'm not saying this would work for everybody, but let's say I have something that on the outside seems very stressful. What I do is I go through a series of mental checks and balances,
Mm.
and that's like for a specific situation, right? But big picture, what you're describing is what I escaped from,
Mm.
what you're describing. And it's this concept that a architecture firm as a business becomes this kind of thing, that this beast that kind of always needs to be fed.
That's what I have right now. It's his assembly line. It
Yeah.
reminds me a lot of the movie Brazil, I think is the name of the movie, right? It's like working constantly, 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 constantly. And I have, you know what movie I'm talking about, right? It's I think it's called Brazil, but it
Yeah,
was
there's
this
also, yeah, Metropolis is another
Metropolis.
one.
Maybe that's the one. Maybe it's Metropolis. Yeah, but it was
Similar,
this. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I watched both of them the same week, so probably that's why I confused them. It was part of a class. I had to watch both of those. So I was like, it's this thing that keeps on going, and it's this big infrastructure, and I'm like, oh my gosh, when am I gonna breathe? Right? Like it's always happening. Now, to recap, and in it, on a positive note, I want you to give me 5 pieces of advice for somebody starting a firm right now or in the middle of working a firm right now that you think have contributed to your success in your life. If you can't come up with 5, that's fine. You can tell me 3, you can tell me 4, but if you can come up with 5 things that somebody really watching this right now says, like, oh wow, that's gonna change my life right now. Like 5 tips, I guess. Dana Ellis rules for success. Top 5.
All right. Well, so these rules of success are not necessarily all ones that I've mastered. So, but they're the ones
Disclaimer.
that, yeah, they're the ones that I think about the most often. So one would be, you don't have to answer a question immediately as it has been asked. You can say, I will get back to you.
Good.
Um, that goes across the board. So I could say that for these questions you've just asked me, that I'll
Mm-hmm.
get back on my 5.
All right.
But
I just put you on the spot.
no,
Hmm.
but that's actually, that was the first one that came up because I think as people pleasers, we are always trying to say, okay, I got it, I can solve this for you.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of power in actually giving things thought,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and giving them time. The second thing is that work with good people. Just work with good people, and you get to define what good means. But especially as a small firm and as a small business, that will go a super long way. The third, this is my mantra for our firm, and I think about it constantly, is do good work. That means being attentive and intentional with the work that we're doing. And that is that is probably like the highest priority, is being intentional. That is how I am who I am today, is I am intentional in the acts that I do. It's a constant practice though, to be thinking about how to do that and to live in that. And then you don't, this is, I guess, 4, you don't have to sacrifice your life for other people. And that means making sure that you are the one leading your own life. If you are, if this is why all architects should at some point, I think, have their own practice. If you are in the driver's seat of your own business, you are then in the driver's seat of your own life. And life is way too short, in my opinion, to be working for somebody else for the entirety of it. Like, give yourself that power, give yourself that control. And then the fifth is, stay on track of your timesheets and your billing. I
The
wish somebody
numbers, right? Make sure the numbers make sense, right?
sure the numbers make sense, and love doing it. It's the part that's the gift back for the work that you do. And the mindset I bring to billing and invoices, which is a struggle. Like, it's one of those things that like I have to struggle through sometimes. The second I say, this is how I'm recognized for the work I do, it's like when I was telling you, like, it's mindset shifts.
Mm.
I go, this is how I receive back the effort I've put in, right? Like this is the exchange. At this point in the project, right? Like, there's different exchanges that happen along the way. The drawings are an exchange.
So it's a trade. It's a trade, and this is what I get from putting this in.
And and there's value in that. And so it suddenly goes from this thing like, oh, I have to sit at the computer and do this task, to being, it almost feels like when I do that mindset shift, it's like the golden light comes down and I'm, handing off the trade exchange, and it feels complete. And like, I feel then like this big sense of peace. And so, yeah, it's all mindset really for me. But yeah, that's the biggest one, is make sure you do it though, and do it with gratitude, and do it with appreciation for your own value. So weren't succinct, but those are it.
This is amazing, Dana. I spent an amazing time talking to you. So now, how does people find you generally? Because I want to give you, generally shout out. Where do we find you? What's your website? What are the venues? I know with the SFX Small Firm Exchange Instagram, you're right there too, and this is gonna be coming out soon too. So people are gonna be able to listen to this and share it with others. But yeah, how does people find you?
So unlike you, I do not have a massive web presence, but we're in the midst of updating our website finally. Like, literally, I did my website in like an afternoon, and it's just been sitting there for a few years, but we're finally starting to add content to it. But it's outpoststudioco.com. And Instagram, we have the Outpost Studio on Instagram. I have the Outpost, let me see, what is it called? I have one for the performing stuff I do.
That's really cool stuff, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. The Outpost Body for the physical stuff. And yeah, if you want to find me, it's funny, the alternative life of being a dancer and a movement performance artist. I do lots of shows in Colorado.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And I'm also starting to work with some children, actually starting today. So we have a show.
Wow, congrats.
April 12th and 13th in Carbondale. But yeah, it's you could either find me in performance world or architecture world, but the SFX is where I am most often with other architects. So I will put it out there to people that if you are a small firm, business owner in particular, and you want the resources and connection of colleagues across the nation, it makes me feel as a small firm owner tied to something larger. And the resources and the connections and just the amazing individuals who have found their way there, yourself included, like it's one of the most rewarding parts of my career right now, is being involved with that. So please join if you're interested.
Yeah, I always tell everybody that, to me, exactly like you said it, being within the AIA, and by the way, going to the conference, which people may stumble upon you too, bump into you there. It feels to me like every discipline and every career has their own all-star game. right? And listen, I wanted to be a basketball player, and I didn't grow to be 6'5" and have the best 3-point shoot. So I am an architect. And what's my all-star game and my finals? Being involved with the AIA, being at the AIA conference, being involved within this big platform where you see the world from another perspective and you see what's to come. Isn't that a great power? You see what's to come prior to anybody ever seeing it, right? Like we see the future. So that for me is like, hey, AIA forever. They don't pay me to say it, but going to the AI conference is amazing. And that said, looking forward to seeing you there and seeing you on the other SFX, sessions that we have coming up. And, everybody, thank you so much, Dana, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you.
Darwin.
Bye.
Bye.